Welcome everybody to another edition of the Cover 2 podcast. Of course, I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And we have a big show for you today. We have three major topics that we know the entire sports world is talking about. We're going to start with the national championship. The game was yesterday. If you're watching this on Wednesday, obviously it wasn't yesterday, but you know what we mean. We are going to move on to the Astros cheating scandal, which is one of the reasons why I'm wearing the 2017 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers gear
Nick's a
today.
little upset.
Upset is an understatement. And then we're going to finish off the podcast by predicting the NFL Conference Championship games. Some of the matchups we would not have expected earlier this season, but we will go on and do that. And we have a little bit of time, maybe one or two more topics at the end of the podcast. But Jared, let's start about the big game yesterday. LSU defeats Clemson 42-25.
Right.
They fulfilled one of the best seasons of all time with a championship. Coach O gets the title. Joe Burrow gets the title on his way to Cincinnati, more than likely. This team, they did what they were supposed to do, and they did not shock too many people with this win.
No, they didn't. And they did what they were supposed to do throughout the entire season, beating 4 ranked opponents, including Clemson last night. I mean, this season and this gauntlet that this team ran through this year is almost unheard of.
It's
almost unprecedented, right? The fact that they beat Florida, beat Alabama, beat Clemson, obviously, in the championship game, and I'm blanking, I'm sorry, on the 4th nationally ranked team that they beat in one season. I don't remember the last time that a team has beaten 4 nationally ranked teams in one season.
I don't think it's ever been done like they did this season. And even if you look at the team, I'm going to bring it up in a second. If you even look at some of the teams that they beat that weren't ranked at the end of the season, they were like ranked 11 or 20 or 15 or 8 at one point.
Right.
So it's like they were coming into every single big game and essentially not caring and just beating everybody down.
And also not just winning, but their average margin of win was 21 points, right? So they were kicking ass.
The simple thing is, like, in the semifinal, they murdered Oklahoma. Like, it wasn't close.
The game was over by halftime. It was really over after the first quarter, but as we saw in the NFL game with the Texans and the Chiefs, any team can really come back.
Yeah.
After halftime, that game was a wrap.
You win a national championship. You beat number 3 Clemson. Early in the season, they went to Texas when Texas was ranked number 9. They beat them. They also beat number 7 Florida, Auburn, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Georgia in the SEC championship game. Georgia beat them by 27 as well, and Georgia ended up the season number 4. So
I mean, just well deserved. What we're saying is there aren't many words to describe how well and how good of a team this LSU team really is. I mean, people are already talking about this team as being one of the greatest college football teams of all time.
Yeah.
And I know that every decade is different, and really you can't compare because today's football with the spread offenses and how much quarterbacks throw the ball for 400 and 500 yards, and Joe Burrow himself had 5 passing touchdowns last game, right?
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, college football was not that way. You had more of a running style, right? I mean, just Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, it was more of a physical running style type of game. So, but still, I mean, this LSU team, they could probably match up with almost any other team.
Legitimately.
From any decade.
And that's the thing. This team is one of the best teams of all time. If you're making the top 10, there's no way you can't put this team in because of what we just said. They beat so many ranked teams this season, and they beat them by a lot. In both the semifinal games, they won by 17 or more. So it's amazing to see this in modern day college football with how, just to be honest, there's more athletes now. So like there are athletes, better football players now than there were when there was a lot of these legendary teams going down and the way the systems were run. Everybody kind of was mano-a-mano. Everybody kind of did the same thing. And, so those teams just were a little bit better, had better athletes. With college football, to have this many good players, have that good of a quarterback, to have that good of a defense, and destroy all your opponents and do exactly what you were supposed to do, you have to put them in the top 10 or top 5. Now, I'm going to sit here and say that I think some of the USC teams from the early 2000s could absolutely compete with LSU, and you run Reggie Bush and Mel White down their throat.
No, listen, I'm not saying that the other teams can't compete.
No, absolutely.
But there's no question this LSU team
is one of the best
in the conversation. And listen, I just mentioned that this air raid passing attack that LSU had, which was basically unstoppable, right? And I completely forgot about Edwards-Helaire, the bowling ball beast of a running back who can not only run you over, but can actually juke you out of your shoes as well. And they literally had, at every position and at every level, they had star players who were making plays. This team was just, they were destined to win. It was in New Orleans. They traveled an hour and 15 minutes from their campus at LSU to the Superdome in New Orleans. It was basically a home game, even though there was a good amount of Clemson fans there. It's just the stars aligned for this team, and I'm not surprised at all that LSU came out with the win.
No, and when you look at we could look at the stat line in this game, or we could look at the stat line for Joe Burrow's season. Over 5,600 yards passing, you heard that right. 60 touchdown passes on the season. It was touchdown passes, right? It was overall touchdowns.
Touchdown passes, I believe.
Well, yeah, but regardless, he scored at least 60 touchdowns this season by himself, whether it was passing or running. And then, of course, the interception rate was 6.
He threw, 6? Was it 6?
I think it was only 6.
60 to 6?
10 to 1?
I'll take that.
Yeah, okay.
I know, that's pretty good.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Justin Fields was good too, but it's just... It really is amazing how good Joe Burrow played this entire season. And then in the championship game, 463 yards, 5 touchdown passes. A lot of people kind of joked that he wasn't going to get the 60, and then he got the 60.
Right.
Like it didn't matter.
Well, the way the game started, right? Let's back it up a little bit.
Let's start analyzing the game a little bit, yeah.
Clemson came out on fire, right? And I think Clemson was playing a little more loose than LSU was. Like I just mentioned, this was in LSU's backyard. LSU was favored to win the game. Clemson, who was coming off of a national championship game, you would think would have a little more clout than that. But everyone's been talking about LSU this year, and Clemson was almost like, the underdog Cinderella story, and it was like, can Clemson even keep up with LSU, right? So Clemson came out and said, we can not only keep up, we're going to come out and score. We're going to take the ball first, go down and score, and we're going to take this lead, and that's exactly what they did. They kind of punched LSU in the mouth, and I think it took LSU about a quarter and a half to actually get adjusted to what Clemson was doing. So I give credit to Clemson for coming out and saying, hey, we're not scared. We don't care. This can be an underdog, non-home field advantage for us, basically an away game. We're going to come out and show you what we're made of, and that's exactly what they did. The first half was a real game. The second half, LSU flexed their muscles and said, okay, this was cute, but we're actually going to come out and we're going to start to dominate, and that's exactly.
Yeah, I remember when we watched the game together, I remember we were saying because LSU was going to get the ball after half, Clemson needed to limit the amount of times that LSU got the ball before the half so that they could, hold the score closer. Because this was one of those games, at least that I felt, and I think you did too, where we all knew LSU was going to score in the 30s or 40s in points. So it was going to be how Clemson stopped that from happening, or if they could keep up and they could keep Joe Burrow off the field. So what happened was, after Clemson kind of dominated the first quarter and played well in the second, you started to see the LSU team turn into what it had been the entire season, and Clemson was going to need to go above and beyond what they were already doing to win this game, because we felt like they were going to lose otherwise, no matter what. And it ended up being that Clemson did not have enough. Their offensive line got tired. Their defense didn't produce later in the game. Now, nobody can really stop Jamar Chase, but they did a horrible job of it. He essentially, won the game for LSU because of how many times he was getting wide open and scoring touchdowns. So it just was one of those things where Clemson needed to keep LSU off the field. They needed to limit their turnovers. They didn't do that, and they ended up losing by 17.
They did, and also Clemson needed their superstars to step up, a.k.a. Trevor Lawrence. And when you go 8 for 37 for 246 yards and 0 touchdowns, that's not going to do it, right?
18 for 37.
18
but
for 37. 18 for 37. I'm sorry. Still, that is not a great stat line. Not a good enough stat line when you're going up against LSU. Maybe you can win against, Clemson's schedule that they had earlier on in the year, which we call basically a cupcake schedule.
Yeah.
That could have beaten most teams. Not LSU, and not against all the great players that they had. So, for me, this wasn't really about stopping LSU, like you said, because I never thought that Clemson would be able to stop LSU. This was about, can Clemson keep up? Can Clemson score 40 or 50 points, right?
Yeah,
Which we know they have the players to do, but can they do it on the biggest stage, right? Because when they played Alabama in years past, in their last year's national championship, they didn't have to score 40 or 50 points, right? It was a little bit more of a defensive game. The game was a little slower, and it was more, I feel, Clemson's pace. This game last night, if you're watching last night, LSU was like, hey, we're putting our foot on the gas and we're going to go. And it was up to Clemson to keep up with them, and they just, unfortunately, were not able to do that.
Yeah, and LSU was more talented. And that's crazy to say because of how talented Clemson is. I mean, they have T. Higgins, they have Travis Anthony, if that's how you say his name. It's
right.
very hard
name
to say.
Clemson, the last
Trevor
few
Lawrence,
years,
yeah.
they've been in the top 3 in recruiting classes, right? So they get all the 5-star players. There's zero reason from a talent-wise standpoint why they can't keep up with LSU.
But LSU still, I mean, the receiving core has 3 legitimate NFL wide receivers on
all over 1,000 yards this year.
The running back for LSU is a very, very solid running back. I'm not going to say he's a 5-star running back or anything like that.
He'll be in the NFL.
But, he will be in the NFL, but he didn't come out of college as like this 5-star stud. He's turned into a great player. And then, of course, you have the best quarterback in college football, maybe besides Trevor Lawrence, playing a quarterback there with a very good offensive system, where your offensive coordinator the next day just got a job with an NFL team. Joe Brady just grabbed the Panthers' offensive coordinator job, if you did not know that. It's just, and I was saying this before the podcast, before we were rolling. This was a game where Clemson was going to go into it, and no matter what, they were going to be fine. Whether they won or they lost, because they already won last year. Most of their players had been on multiple national championship teams. And they still have a great roster, and they still have their QB, and they still have their head coach for next year, and they weren't supposed to win that game. So if you're a Clemson player, hang your head high. You were supposed to lose that game. You did as much as you possibly could. They really didn't make that many mistakes in the game either, but yeah, I guess they didn't play the best that they could, but you're facing one of the best teams, if not the best team ever, to play college football. So it's fine. Clemson losing, this is not a big deal. It's not going to be one of these situations where it's like the Rams, where they don't, I think they'll probably be in the Final Four again next year and potentially in the national.
Nick is talking to every Clemson fan right now who has their, head in their hands, crying because Clemson did not win. Basically what he's saying is, Trevor Lawrence is coming back next year, and then he will be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. So you have an NFL quarterback playing for you at your college next year if you're Clemson. So, yes, things will be fine. Dabo Swinney will be back. Most of, if not their entire coaching staff, will come back. And I think that's another reason why Clemson's been able to maintain their success is because they have the same coordinators, the same recruiters who are coming back, right? A lot of colleges, even if you're Alabama, right? Think about it, their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator positions are changing from year to year. So when you're Nick Saban, even though you're still getting 5-star recruits, when you're walking into a family's home, right? It's tough to sit here and sell a family on, hey, we're going to have continuity and camaraderie without our coaches and our players, for 4 consecutive years. Because more than likely, my coaching staff is going to leave and move on to bigger and better things, right? With Clemson, they've had sustained success, not only with their players, but with their coaching staff, and I think that goes hand in hand. So I think you're absolutely right with Clemson. Yes, they're going to be right back in the mix of things for next year.
Yeah.
LSU, I think winning the national championship and the success and the spotlight that they have been put in this year, I think is going to elevate their recruiting class even more, right? LSU already is known for having great recruiting classes, and they get 4- and 5-star prospects every single year. Winning the national championship, I think now you will start to get the quarterbacks, right, and the star athletes on the outside who will now come in and be recruited.
Because the one thing about LSU the last couple of years, one of the reasons they didn't win national championships, even though they were ranked very high, they didn't have a quarterback, right? It's the Zach Mettenbergers, the other guys I don't know and didn't advance.
The Jamarcus Russells?
Yeah, well, he was great in college, but there's a lot of guys that weren't even that great in college that didn't have success in the NFL either. Joe Burrow is the exact opposite of that. He's going to be the number 1 pick, and he will have a future in the NFL. He has all the intangibles and all that stuff. So you're right, they are going to get the quarterbacks. They also absolutely locked down the state of Louisiana's athletes, I believe, as long as Coach O is there. So that's a big thing. When you can recruit in-state, that's a big problem in California right now. The California schools aren't getting the California athletes, and schools like Oregon are taking them away. To have your own state's players, especially when your state produces 4- and 5-star recruits, it's awesome. And there's a lot of SoCal guys that also go and play in Louisiana, guys from Texas as well because of the proximity. So this is huge for both teams, and we'll see about what happens next year. I don't know who their quarterback is or anything like that as far as LSU goes, but Clemson still has Trevor Lawrence. And in my opinion, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number 1 pick next year, and you could argue was just as good as Joe Burrow coming into this game as well. So we see. Do we want to talk about anything else with the national championship?
I believe there's some breaking news that
breaking news on a topic that we were already going to talk about. So we'll break it right here. We are going to move on to the Astros cheating scandal. They've been punished. It's one of the most harsh punishments an MLB team has had.
And yet, I don't believe it's enough.
It's not enough. And there's another team being investigated, and that team is the Boston Red Sox. And they just, in a matter of minutes, just a second ago, parted ways with Alex Cora. So Alex Cora is now not the manager of the Boston Red Sox anymore because, to be honest, he is the mastermind behind the entire Astros cheating scandal. I will try to explain as much as I can in the most biased way possible because my team and a lot of others got screwed royally during the 2017 season.
Is that why you're wearing Dodgers?
It is. I need to turn around my hat. I already screwed up my little thing I was going to do. But
all right.
Yes, you are looking at the jersey and hat of the 2017 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Because the Astros were implicated in a cheating scandal that involved using cameras to steal the catcher's signs and relay what pitch was going to come via whistling, clapping, or hitting a garbage can or hitting something in the dugouts of players.
I still don't understand that one. I mean, when you're in a stadium filled with 30,000 fans, how, if you're hitting a baseball bat to a garbage can, how can you hear,
the most famous video that came out, so we already had evidence of this that came out when the MLB started investigating it, especially the Dodgers Reddits and social media accounts and fans that posted stuff. There was a big incident where, right when they kind of started this whole scheme, a Chicago White Sox player, Danny Farquhar, you could visibly hear these bangs. And it was the way the scandal went, if they banged once, it was one pitch. If they banged twice, it was another pitch. And if they didn't say anything, it was going to be a fastball. So it's not like these bangs happened every single time.
Okay.
Farquhar realized this, called out his catcher, took a second, and they changed the signs and went into a format where they called 2 or 3 signs like you would do with a player on second base. And then if you go back, you can hear whistling during the Dodgers World Series, during the Yankees ALCS game, or clapping, or other things that were odd to be happening on specific pitches where giant home runs happened or big doubles and stuff.
What a coincidence, huh?
Yeah, no, exactly. So just go back exactly what they did. They used this camera system to cheat. They used the replay room. There's rumors that that Alex Cora moved on to the Red Sox and did it as well. And there was an Apple Watch incident at some point with the Red Sox and Yankees as well, where someone was relaying pitches through an Apple Watch.
Damn Apple.
In the report from MLB, they implicated that Alex Cora was the mastermind. Carlos Beltran was involved. He was a player at the time. And that A.J. Hinch, the manager for the Astros, let all of this happen, but visibly disagreed and at some points even just tried to destroy the equipment so that it would not happen. And so A.J. Hinch lost his job. The Astros, Jennifer.
Who's Jennifer?
The Astros, you understand.
Okay.
You understand what it. The Astros general manager, Jeff Lunau, was also fired by management. And they were suspended for a year already, so they were not going to be there next year. But the owner, Jim Crane, decided to just part ways with them. And obviously the Red Sox have just done this right now. So if you're watching live, you're hearing breaking news that Alex Cora is not with the Red Sox anymore. And here's the thing. So the potential with him is, number one, his punishment will be harsher because he's been told and ratted out by a bunch of people that he was the guy. Right. He was the guy that created this. The Astros players went along with it. They will not get punished because of some weird CBA rule, which I don't understand. And Carlos Beltran apparently is not going to get punished, even though he's the manager of the Mets right now. And his name kept coming up as well. Cora will get at least a year ban.
Is a lifetime ban?
And that is absolutely in the table here, because Pete Rose has a lifetime ban, and to be honest, this is just as bad as sports gambling, to be honest, because he manipulated the game so much that they won Game 7 of the ALCS with visible cheating being involved. They won Game 7 of the World Series with cheating that you presume was against Yu Darvish when they said he was tipping pitches. No, they knew what pitches was going to come. So, first of all, before I let you ask me some questions I get your take, I want to apologize to Yu Darvish for defaming his name and blaming him for essentially the 2017 World Series. I want to apologize for Clayton Kershaw for that year. He still screwed up a bunch of times after that and before that, so I'm not getting him off the hook. But anybody that made mistakes in 2017 against the Astros in that World Series, I apologize for giving you crap at that moment, because clearly you guys were all at a disadvantage. So, Jared.
Wow, we have more breaking news here. Nick is apologizing. This doesn't happen too often, so this is.
Wait till my Lamar Jackson take later.
Very, very unique. No, so okay, we have the news about Alex Cora and the Red Sox mutually. So what I find interesting is the fact that they are mutually agreeing to part ways. What I want to know is, was this done by the Red Sox because they felt this was the right thing to do? Or was this Major League Baseball forcing the Red Sox hand and saying, hey, you guys better do something drastic or else, right? Because and the same thing with the Astros.
Yeah.
When they fired their general manager and head coach, right? Was that Major League Baseball coming down and saying, putting their hand down and saying, you guys have to do this? Or was it the actual team taking it upon themselves to say, this is what we're going to do?
With the Astros, it was the team. It was actually shocking to a lot of baseball people that it came down so quick.
Okay, because I respect that a lot more than Major League Baseball having to come down and say, hey, we're going to hold your hand. No. This is what you guys should do, right? Take it upon yourself to say, okay, we screwed up, we made a mistake, we own it, and now we're going to suffer the consequences.
No, and the thing is, too, with the Red Sox investigation, which is currently ongoing, Cora has not been punished yet. We're waiting, and we realize that the punishment is going to be very, very bad, because we saw what happened with Hinch. And here's the rest of with the Astros. I forgot to mention this. They fired the coach AJ Hinch and Jeff Lunell were both suspended for this season. They also took away the Astros' first and second round picks in the next 2 drafts. So essentially, you're missing the chance to draft 70 great MLB players every single year for the next 2 years, which is a big deal, and it's going to be hard. And the Astros were already losing players as well to free agency, mainly Garrett Cole. It's going to be hard for them to keep up a tradition of winning because of this. And they also were fined $5 million. If you think that's low, it's only because MLB can only fine people $5 million.
Hold on. Do we think that's low? Just ballpark for me. How much is the Houston Astros worth?
Over $1 billion.
And $5 million is all that they can get fined? You know what that is, Nick?
Hey,
you know what that is? No. Pull your hand out right now. Pull your hand out. No, the other way.
Oh, that's right. There it is.
That's a slap on the wrist. That's exactly what that is. $5 million. I guarantee you they wrote a check and they said, here you go. Here's $5 million.
You know what the NFL is? $1 million. The NFL is worse. The NFL, you can only be fined $1 million for the worst offense ever. So,
the NFL should get fined just for having that stupid fine. That is ridiculous. That didn't make any sense what I just said. That is literally ridiculous. That a team that is worth over $1 billion can be fined for a maximum of $5 million. That makes zero sense to me.
What I honestly think the MLB should do is fine them $5 million for the next 10 years. Add up to 50 or something like that. Just keep fining them the most until you come up to an amount that you're like, all right, they're fine now. But no, you're right. In MLB contracts, nobody even gets signed to $5 million contracts because the rate of players like getting paid is just not that low. So
or you drop the hammer and say, here's $100 million.
Yeah, I mean, they did lose $5 million to hire a new head coach, to be honest, or new manager, excuse me. What we expect is that the Astros are just going to stay in-house and hire the assistant general manager.
So someone else who was involved with this.
Of course.
Oh, okay. All right.
But And then, you know what's funny? Do you remember during the World Series, it came out that there was an employee that was harassing women in the locker room and from the Astros. Yeah, this was during the 2019 World Series. His name is Brandon Tubman.
Okay.
He was investigated. He was suspended for this entire season already, I believe, for what he did. The Astros have a player that was involved in a domestic abuse. Domestic abuse, and he was actually, charged with it. And he was released from the Toronto Blue Jays. His name is Marcell Ozuna. No, not Marcell Ozuna. I don't want to get that wrong. Roberto Osuna. So he went up to reporters and said something like, I forget exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines of domestic abuse. That man was already the second in command. So it's actually the third in command that's now going to be taking over. By the way, I don't want to sugarcoat this. The Astros, I've been using the term Astros on Twitter with 2 S's, by the way, because that's what this team is. And the fact that the star players also were involved in all of this, hey, the Angels' home opener is against the Houston Astros. If anybody wants to go with me, I will wear this exact jersey, and people will understand. And I may or may not throw something at Jose Altuve. I might miss because he's short, but it's just. It's not good.
Okay. So what about this? Yeah. What about this punishment here? Right. We talked about Alex Cora with the Red Sox, but speaking specifically with the Houston Astros, what about a postseason ban for the next 2 years? Right. So, but they obviously get to play during their regular season. Everyone still gets paid, but no matter what their record, no matter if they finish first in the AL West, doesn't matter. They won't make the playoffs.
Well, and if you remember. I forget exactly what we were talking about. I think I've said this in the Patriots scenario and this scenario where I did say a postseason ban would kind of make teams absolutely never try this because there's literally no point in playing.
Right, because then why really try?
And to be honest, that's probably it's not the only real thing they could have done, but you could have took away more draft picks. You could have suspended all the star players. You could have fired more people in the organization. But that is the worst thing you could have done compared to what they did. This is it's a good punishment by the MLB, but just not enough in a lot of fans' minds. It's way better than a lot of the NFL punishments. It's honestly better than the steroid punishment already. That's essentially only 1 season. I mean, I think a guy that takes steroids in nowadays baseball, knowing what it did to the game, should probably be banned for life, to be honest. So. If it's, the cause is that they did it on purpose. Obviously, if you have a situation where you get caught with it unknowingly, you shouldn't be banned for life. But, so, it's kind of hard to say that the postseason ban should have happened just because they did come down on them hard. Might happen with the Red Sox if it's bad enough or maybe even worse.
Because my next point is, what is it going to take to stop teams from doing this? Because it's known around Major League Baseball, and I guess around professional sports in general, right? Teams will do whatever it takes to win. Now, I'm going to use an example, and it might sound random, but the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick, right?
This is not random.
When they run their pick plays, and a pick play is when a wide receiver runs into a defender without actually running a route. He's literally just running straight at a defender to pick that defender from trying to make a defensive tackle, right? Well, that is technically illegal by NFL standard rules. Bill Belichick has basically come out and said, referees are not going to call that flag, call that penalty on every single play. Yeah. So if we run that play 12 or 15 times a game, referees are more than likely only going to call it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. So if we successfully convert that play 11 times, I will take the 2 penalties. He's basically saying, I will get punished, I will get fined, but you're not going to do it to me on every single play.
And think about it this way, too. You transition to another sport, James Harden traveling. James Harden travels almost every single time he shoots the ball. You're not going to call it on every single time. So, some people find advantages. That's not really cheating, though, in that way. This is a systematic, electronic way of that you are trying to manipulate the game. And in baseball, the entire reason baseball exists is to hit a baseball from a person that is throwing it. So if you know what pitch is coming, I can be playing in the MLB right now. I'm serious. I was talking to my dad yesterday. He played professional baseball in the minor leagues. He said that if he was, and one of the reasons he didn't play in the major leagues it's because he couldn't hit a curveball. Sorry, Dad, he's not watching this anyway, so it doesn't matter. He said that if he knew a curveball was coming when it was coming, he would have played in the major leagues because he would have been able to, when he did guess curveball, he hit the ball a long way. He didn't have the advantage of, having a coach systematically cheat for your team. Moving on, I want to ask you a question. What do you think about the players not getting in trouble for any of this? So, that pissed me off yesterday.
Right.
The guys like Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve are sitting there against the Dodgers, throwing their bat, celebrating after they knew what pitch was coming and they hit a home run.
I think there's two ways to look at this. You can look at this from both perspectives. You can look at it from one way and say, okay, well, Alex Cora was the mastermind of all of this and basically lured his players and his team into this, right?
That's
and
not how
management and everything else.
That's not how it's looking, though.
No, I know. I'm just saying one could say, right? Well, he said, hey, guys, let's do this. No one's going to find out. And, if it does, I'll take the blame for it. Thinking, hey, we're never going to get caught, right? And so these players are like, hey, if we win, if it helps us win games, which they won 2 World Series in 3 years, obviously it worked, right? So if you're a player, you're like, oh man, that worked. Let's do it again, right? It's kind of like I don't know. You get addicted and you don't want to stop because you're so successful with it. And
that's exactly what happened, and that's why AJ Hinch couldn't do anything about it because it was a team-wide thing. With the exception of Mike Fiers, who ratted on everybody.
The other side to it is these are all grown-ass men who get to make their own decisions, and I understand they're being paid by a team, and obviously if you don't do certain things or if you don't, agree with what the coach says, maybe you don't play. But also, from a man to another man, like you know what right and wrong is, and you can sit there and stand up for yourself. So for AJ Hinch, as the manager of this organization, to basically step aside and not do enough, because I know that you said that he wasn't necessarily on board with this, but the fact that he knew about it, he could have done a lot more to prevent this from happening. He could have told Alex Cora, or he could have said, "Hey guys, we're not doing this. Shut it down." He did not do that. So the fact that these players did not stand up for not only themselves, but for the organization, that right there just shows me that, hey, listen, whatever punishment, or unfortunately if they don't, but whatever punishment they should get is well-deserved. Because you're a grown man at the end of the day, and you should be able to make your own decisions.
Here's a couple of other interesting things. So I keep bringing up the Red Sox. If you didn't know, the Red Sox won the World Series in 2018, the year that they're being investigated in. Obviously, this is an Alex Cora doing thing. It's not like a bunch of Astros moved over to the Red Sox and continued cheating. This just, what it seems like, is continued over to Boston because of Alex Cora. But another interesting thing to think about, the guys that won MVPs in 2017 and 2018 were kind of, I'm trying to find out the term to not be too mean, but I kind of am going to just be mean. It was two small guys that shouldn't win MVPs, Jose Altuve and Mookie Betts. They won MVPs in years where they're being investigated, or in now case the Astros, they're guilty of knowing what pitches are coming. And so now you're taking away MVPs from Aaron Judge and multiple other players and Mike Trout. And it's just, you look at this and it's not just that they cheated like against the Dodgers, or it's not that they cheated against the Yankees, or that they cheated in all of 2017.
This stretches to a lot of other categories.
You look at it and it's like there's so many people got screwed in this, and players voice this on Twitter too. This is not just Dodger fans or Yankee fans or MLB Network guys. This is everybody now has put the Houston Astros as enemy number one in, to be honest, sports. Like, you want to know how the Yankees cannot become the evil empire anymore? The Houston Astros cheating and literally like scamming the game out of everybody. Like, hey, I said this on Twitter yesterday. Yankees Dodgers in the makeup World Series this year. No cheating, no BS, just straight baseball.
Mano a mano.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, to wrap this up, because we do have to move on. Basically, I would like to see the Astros and the Red Sox, for this matter, have postseason bans for this upcoming season, if not further. Because, like, okay, you can get rid of your manager, and you can fine the team $5 million, which still baffles me, but we're gonna have to move on from that. And you can give them loss of draft picks and all that.
Yeah.
But the fact if you're going into a season as a player and you know that no matter what you do, you're not making it to the postseason.
Who's signing with those teams?
That's what I'm saying. But that's the thing. Yeah. It's not going to affect them just with the players that they have.
Yeah.
If you're a free agent or, right before the trade deadline, no team is going to want to make a trade with you or at least no player is going to want to go play with you because what's the point? You're not going to, unless you just like not playing in the postseason, unless you're okay with just, kind of hanging it up after the regular season, playing 162 games and then saying, okay, I'm done. I'm pretty sure there's no one in Major League Baseball.
You think you're going to get that vet glue guy that's trying to win a World Series?
I don't think so.
Hell no.
So to me, unless Major League Baseball comes out with that type of punishment, I'm going to be dissatisfied with what they have done so far.
Here's an interesting thing. NFL, take note. You know the Patriots cheated. You have evidence of it. Let's get a worse penalty than the MLB just did for the Astros. Let's one-up this. Let's stop the cheating in the game. The cheating can happen on the field. I understand that if it's within a certain amount. People cheap shot each other. People do the pick plays, all that stuff. People trip each other. That's fine. I don't care about that kind of stuff. But systematic electronic cheating where you're just getting so much of an advantage on the game, it needs to end. So I want to see the NFL suspend Bill Belichick. I want to see them suspend Robert Kraft. I want to see them. I want to see Tom Brady have no choice but to not go back to the New England Patriots because of how much they're going to get screwed by this. So I know they're going to get fined $1 million, but hey, take 2 first-round picks away from the Patriots every single year. That's going to be brutal. But yeah, let's move on. Real quick, for the Facebook Live people, I'm going to come up and check our other camera really quickly just to make sure it's still working and going. And then we will move on to the NFL playoff picks. So
Nick, you actually did pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised by how calm you stayed. Because if that happened to one of my teams...
you should have seen me yesterday.
Oh, okay. So he did this before. He got this out of his system. That way when he came on the show, he would be a little more level-headed and we wouldn't have to edit this more than we already did.
Well, I don't want to have to edit it a bunch.
Okay, well, no, I'm just saying, I'm proud of you, man. You held your own.
If you saw me yesterday, though, especially, I didn't even drink coffee before this either, so this is just naturally, a lot of times I drink coffee before the show.
You didn't need the coffee today.
No, but yesterday, I was 2 large iced coffees in, and me and my brother were just reeling off, F this guy, all this stuff, and it was a pretty good time. It was a good time.
We're going to keep it PG for all of our listeners here. We are going to move on to the NFL. It is Conference Championship weekend. We have the Packers that are traveling to face San Francisco 49ers, and in the AFC, Kansas City Chiefs, in a crazy game, beat the Houston Texans, and they are now hosting the Tennessee Titans, who started the season 2-4, 2-5, right? Made a quarterback switch to Ryan Tannehill, who everyone thought when he was traded from Miami to Tennessee, that was just, that's the end of his career right there. He rejuvenates this entire team. Derrick Henry, the NFL's leading rusher this season, looks like no one can stop him, and this Tennessee Titans team looks very scary. So we have 2 great games, right? Where at the beginning of the season, maybe, teams or people probably would have had Kansas City and maybe some would have had Green Bay in this position. Yeah. But to sit here and say that San Francisco and the Tennessee Titans are now in the conference championship game and their respective conferences, I think is very interesting and makes for great conversation. So let's start with the NFC matchup. The number 1 seed, San Francisco 49ers, hosting the Green Bay Packers. Let's go back to week 12 of the regular season. This same matchup in San Francisco, and the Niners completely obliterated the Packers. The Packers scored 8 points in that entire game. Do we see a similar type of game, or do the Packers rebound, and do you see an upset?
Absolutely not. We did not see the game. Was it Monday Night Football? Right?
I believe it was. It was national television.
No, absolutely not. We don't see this. I think this is going to be an extremely close game, and I think either team can win, to be honest. The 49ers are a young team. They have a young, relatively younger head coach to the game of head coaching, and they have an inexperienced playoff quarterback. Their defense is awesome. Their playmakers on offense are awesome. But I've said this in the past, when you have a quarterback that you cannot put all of your trust in, and was the guy that was making the only mistakes against Minnesota, that's where I'm going to be hey, you're facing Aaron Rodgers. I'm maybe going to go with Aaron Rodgers just simply because of the quarterback battle. So, what's your take?
Did you not see the Niners' defensive line and how they just completely obliterated
They're awesome.
Kirk Cousins?
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah.
That's why Jimmy G doesn't have to be the man. He can sit back and say, you know what? I'm going to take some chances. I'm going to take some risks. Yeah. Put that back. He's going to take some chances and some risk. And if he throws an interception or forces a turnover or something like that, he's going to say, hey, defense, go back and pick me up. Hey, running game, pick me up a little bit, right? This team is so well-rounded. Jimmy G doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers because that's not their MO. That's not what they do. They run the ball very well, and they play great, solid defense. And if they do that, if that's their concept, their mindset going into this game against Green Bay, I don't see Green Bay winning. I'm going with the Niners. I'm going with the whole team. I'm going with the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the advantages, but I just think when you look at any rematch in sports, period, you can look at boxing, you can look at MMA, you can look at baseball rematches, football rematches. The other team that they got their ass whooped in the game before are going to come back and play a lot better.
Right. No, I mean, make no mistake. This will be a different game. There will be different schemes. Obviously, the Packers are playing better than they were at that point in Week 12 of the season. So I'm not saying that the Packers are going to get the whooped like they did earlier in the season. But the way that San Francisco's defense looked against Minnesota, I don't see a team scoring points on them, man. I mean, their front four is ferocious. They have first-round draft picks galore all over that. They got Quan Alexander, the star linebacker, back last week, and you got Richard Sherman locking down one half of the secondary. I don't see how you can score on them.
Here's the way you score on them. I'll give you the answer. And this was the only reason I'm giving the Packers the chance in this game is because of how they played and how a certain individual played against the Seahawks in this last game.
Okay.
That man is Devontae Adams, okay? Devontae Adams in the last game, 8 receptions, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 11 total targets, so only missed 3 balls. When he's going like this, it helps out the rest of the offense. It helps out Aaron Rodgers. It helps out Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had 2 touchdowns in this game as well. Didn't have the yards because of, like you mentioned, that stout defensive line. But when it counted, Aaron Jones scored the football. So I think because of that 3-headed monster, Aaron Jones has become a very good running back now. Devontae Adams seems to be the Devontae Adams of old. And Aaron Rodgers is looking better. I'm giving them a chance. And I think, to be honest, if the Packers can somehow get to 3 or 4 touchdowns in this game, I think they have a chance because they now have proven to me that they can score enough and they can move the ball enough on offense that they can keep the 49ers off the field. And if you can do that against the Seahawks defense, albeit it's not the best, you can do that against the 49ers defense. Now, one thing I'll say before I give this back to you. The Packers cannot do what they did on defense against the Seahawks in the second half. Because if not for Jimmy Graham barely getting over the first down line, the Seahawks should have won this game. The Green Bay Packers defense essentially gave up. Russell Wilson did whatever he wanted. There was multiple big plays. Anytime the Seahawks wanted to get a first down, they got a first down. And literally they just ran out of time and weren't able to make the comeback full. So the defense absolutely needs to improve. If you take a big lead on the 49ers, you need to keep your foot on the gas pedal. Other than that, I think the Packers have a chance, but I'm not going to make a prediction yet.
I am very solid with my prediction and very confident that the 49ers... they have home field advantage, right? They've got to sleep in their own beds for the last 3 weeks. They had a week off. They were able to get their star linebacker back. They are, for the most part, very much healthy. This team is just rolling, right? We always talk about teams that are taking the incline at the right time of the season, right? They're playing well at the right time. And I think right now, the 49ers are one of those teams, right? They're playing well at the right time of the season. They're getting hot at the right time. And I don't see them losing.
There's evidence to show that, or to show what you just said in these playoff matchups. You look at the 4 teams in the playoffs. All of them either got really hot at the beginning of the playoffs or the layoff didn't affect them, the 1 week bye or potentially your 1.5 week bye that you got with week 17. We saw that happen with the Ravens. They came out slow.
Right.
Who else? What was the other game?
Kansas City. They came out slow.
Kansas City came
down
out
24-0.
They came out slow, but then they turned it around. And so it's just, that's just the way it is. So the teams that got hot are going to have a chance at Super Bowl. So, yeah, my prediction for this game, though, is I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go with the experienced Super Bowl winning.
I thought you were going to make a pick.
What's that?
I thought you weren't going to make a pick.
No, I said I wasn't ready. I thought you were going to extend.
Oh, you weren't ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to pick the Packers the whole time. I just want to give you more time.
Okay. No, I'm good, man. I'm solid.
Yeah. But so I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go with the Super Bowl winning quarterback over Jimmy G. I've just seen this in the past where you have that first-time quarterback in the playoffs not succeed. We saw this with Jared Goff last year in the Super Bowl. He ends up not succeeding in the end against a team like Tom Brady and the Patriots. So I think I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers here to win this for the Packers. I'm going to go with Devontae Adams to have another big game. Aaron Jones is going to score some touchdowns, and it's going to look a lot like the Packers-Seahawks game. I'm going Packers, so we're going to be opposite for this game. All right, let's move on to the last game. Tennessee Titans and Kansas City Chiefs.
Green Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so
that's new.
That's the second botch of the day. So we, Kansas City, if you would have said, oh, they're going to be in the AFC Championship, yeah, probably, right? Especially after last year. Tennessee Titans, absolutely not. Nobody would have said that unless you're some biased Titans fan. Then the Titans start 2-4 and goal line stand the Chargers to stay away from 2-5. And you're like, there's no way this stupid team is going to make the playoffs. They have Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. But here we are, Jared. And the one guy that we all are going to look to in this game, period, on either team is Derrick Henry. Because Derrick Henry's won these two games against the Patriots and Ravens. So
think about this.
Yes.
The last two games, like you just mentioned, against the Patriots, who have the number one defense in the league, and against the Ravens, that have a very stout defense. I believe they're top 5. Derrick Henry has rushed for 390 yards total against both those teams. What do you think he's going to do against a Swiss cheese Kansas City Chiefs defense? He might rush for 390 in this game. And you think I'm joking, but I am not. Kansas City, Tyrann Mathieu, all those boys in that defense, if they don't strap up their chin straps, they are going to get run over. Derrick Henry is LeBron James, but bigger. And we all know how big LeBron James is.
Yeah. Not with height, but yes, physically, Derrick Henry is a freak.
He's a man.
There was everybody remembers, or at least knows of, William the Refrigerator Perry. He ran one run once, and everyone was like, it's so awesome. It'd be awesome to have a guy like that on your team to run the ball.
Yeah, Tennessee has one of those
guys. This is Derrick the Refrigerator Henry on this team, or the whatever you want to call it.
Except the dude's probably got 3% body fat, and he's just...
Here's the thing. When I saw Derrick Henry on 3rd and 1 run over a pro football linebacker and then run 66 yards after that, this guy is my new favorite player in the NFL that's not an Arizona Cardinal. I love this guy. And you know what's funny? I've attributed his success to Mariota being switched out of quarterback, because I think when you had Marcus Mariota at quarterback, you kind of wanted Mariota to possibly run the ball a little more too.
Well, of course, you wanted him to use his legs. He's a dual threat quarterback.
So Derrick Henry didn't get the touches. Now that they were just like, no, we don't need a running quarterback. We have this awesome running back. Let's win the game from him and have our quarterback make the big plays. That's exactly what they're doing. We saw Ryan Tannehill with a long ball. I forget what drive it was. I think it was the second time the Titans had the ball.
It was in the first quarter.
Because you thought, we're going to give it to Derrick Henry. Boom. No, they're going to throw 50 yards to some guy nobody's ever heard of. And Ryan Tannehill got half his yards on that one play, literally. Here's the other thing, interesting stat too, when you look at this game. Derrick Henry, you said, has 390 yards. How many does Ryan Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill has less than 200 yards passing coming into this game. This is the reverse of what
going football is going to, right? The NFL is going to spread offenses, 4 or 5 wide receivers, quarterbacks throwing for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and all this stuff. And you've got the Tennessee Titans playing old school, smash mouth, in-your-face football. And you want to know also why it's working? I think over the years, teams have evolved and said, okay, we don't need huge 300-400-pound linemen and big bruising linebackers. We need guys with speed that can run sideline to sideline. So the fact that teams and players themselves just aren't as big, as they used to be. I mean, they are, but I think
no,
you know
but they
what I'm
are.
trying to
No,
say,
I
right?
know what you're saying.
And then you have Derrick Henry and this Titans offense that will put 6 or 7 offensive linemen in, basically a jumbo package for the entire game and say, try to stop us. Teams just aren't prepared for that. It's almost like when the spread system first came in and became relevant in football, it was so crazy and so mind-boggling because teams weren't prepared for that. You didn't have the athletes to be able to match up with all these wide receivers that were on the field. Now it's almost like reverse. You have the athletes, but you don't have the girth and the big guys to tackle these.
That's a very good point you make. I didn't think about it that way. If you talk about the Chiefs defense, if you know me at all personally, I have had on and off disagreements, we'll say, with Tyrann Mathieu on social media, where he has actually responded like an idiot to some of my DMs I've sent him about his play when he was on the Cardinals and his play now. Tyrann Mathieu doesn't hit, okay? He admitted this on Twitter the other day. There's a lot of Chiefs guys that don't know how to hit and aren't big hitters. I cannot wait for Derrick Henry to run over every single DB on the team.
I already know what's going to happen. Tyrann Mathieu is going to, what I call, make a business decision and get the hell out of the way.
You ever seen the bullfight before?
Yeah.
Yeah, bullfight. He's going to be like one of those guys with the thing. He's going to hold his red jersey out and just be like, Derrick, here you go.
Yeah, here you go, man.
Yeah, here you go. Right there.
No, that's a business decision. I'm going to keep my body intact and let you score.
This is just run the Tyrann Mathieu side every single time.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Why wouldn't you?
I would, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. And I'm going to be laughing the whole time. And I'm going to hit him up after the game and be like, what did you do? I called it out.
All right. So we're giving Tennessee a lot of props here, right?
Yes, I know we should talk about the Chiefs.
Their kind of a different style of play is working very well. And then you have the Chiefs, right, who we have to talk about how they came back from a 24-0 deficit in the first quarter. Chiefs fans left the stadium in the first quarter, right? Booing them. Yeah, no, it was Chiefs fans left. And you can't get back in once you leave an event like that,
How do you give up? Your team was down by 3 possessions. It's not
I'm just saying, right? So here's the thing, right? The Chiefs, knowing that, and by the way, in 3 quarters scored 51 points. Wrap your head around that for a minute. How confident is this Chiefs team? So even if Tennessee comes in and say they score on their opening possession, or say they, something like that, they start to feel themselves a little bit. If you're Kansas City, you're like, oh man, this is nothing.
Dude, who cares?
Like, who cares, right? We've got Patrick Mahomes, we've got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. We have all these weapons. Go ahead, score 10 points, score 7, hell, score 24 again. It's fine. We can come back. I think this team is so much more confident after being down 24-0 to Houston and knowing that they can come back. Once again, I think the home field advantage. Now, the one thing I will say, the running game of Tennessee will travel anywhere. It doesn't matter the weather conditions, doesn't matter if it's in a dome or not, and it doesn't matter, what time it is. The running game can travel anywhere, right? But the lethal offense that Kansas City has, does Tennessee have enough on defense to maintain and control Kansas City? You can't stop Kansas City.
Nobody does.
Do you have enough to control them enough? And my answer to that question is no. I think Kansas City will be able to outscore Tennessee because their offense is too lethal with Patrick Mahomes. And I think in the end, it'll be a high-scoring game, but I think Kansas City outlasts Tennessee.
Tennessee does not have enough guys to stop the Kansas City Chiefs. They do have a defense that can win the game, though. This is not the Texans' defense that just was absolutely putrid from midway through the second quarter on. And there was a lot of mistakes that the offense made and special teams made. They put the defense in a lot of vulnerable positions. But overall, Kansas City literally was doing whatever they want. It looked like an Ohio State versus like Rutgers at 7 points, where it's like, why is the talent so off? Why is the talent so off here from offense and defense? And this is the playoffs. And the Texans advanced. It's not like this was the first round matchup or something. So the Titans have a lot of great defensive players, but the way they're going to win is on offense. I'm trying to find the time of possession statistics here. I don't think I'm going to be able to
right, and I know you were bringing that up, but that's for Tennessee. That's what you do, right? You run the ball, you control the clock, less likely for turnover, and you keep Patrick Mahomes and that lethal offense on the sideline. When Patrick Mahomes is on the sideline, they can't score points, right? So if you're Tennessee, you're saying, hey, Derrick Henry, do whatever you have to do, take as many ice baths as you want, get as many massages, because come Sunday, I'm handing you the rock 40 times. Like, be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be like, oh no, let's do 55 instead. Probably. Brian, do you just take the game off from throwing this game? But no. And here's the thing. All you do, like, you take 7.5 minutes off the clock for every single drive. Even if you're not scoring necessarily or you're getting field goals,
you're shortening the game.
That's half a quarter. If you can take half a quarter off every single quarter, half quarter off. Yeah, that does make sense, but it sounds super confusing. You only have to have the ball 4 times, and you're essentially only giving the ball to the Chiefs 4, 5, 6 times in the game, which is not that much. In my opinion, Kansas City ain't going to score 40 in this game just because of how much time Tennessee is going to take off the clock. But if Kansas City takes an early lead, the Titans have absolutely no chance. Because at that point, you're going to have to rely somewhat on a passing attack, and we saw this with the Baltimore Ravens, that their running attack, went out the door, and with a guy like Lamar Jackson, who is not pass first and is not known as an elite passer, they were not able to come back, and the Ravens ended up getting semi-blown out in that game. It's even worse for Tennessee, because they don't have Lamar Jackson's speed and all that stuff. Tannehill is not going to come back and win you a game if you're down by 2 possessions.
So, Tennessee, little advice. Don't get down by double digits.
No,
first
if they can stay within 1 possession of the Chiefs the entire game, they have a chance. With that, my prediction, though, is the Chiefs. I just do not see the Titans having enough on defense to truly stop the Chiefs. And I don't think the offensive strategy is going to work for a 3rd time in a row. With now you being able to see this offense versus 2 of the best defenses in all of football. I think there's going to be enough tape out there for Kansas City, even with their little guys and their Swiss cheese defense, to do enough scheme-wise to figure out a way to limit Derrick Henry's impact of the game. Don't get me wrong. Derrick Henry will have over 100 yards in this game. He will not have 200, though. And if he gets 200, they win this game. Because I think that means they're taking enough time off the clock, or he's ran big touchdowns, stuff like that. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs. 10-point victory. I'm going to go 24-14. I'm going to go low scoring. So bet the
low
under.
Scoring.
Okay.
So you think
I just think that Tennessee is going to take enough time off the clock, and Kansas City will be stopped by Tennessee's defense a couple of times.
Okay.
And I just think it will, it's going to be cold weather, all that stuff. So it's maybe 27-17.
Kansas City wins 30-17. I think they score
it's
enough.
very similar. Yeah.
Listen, all Kansas City has to do is put together 2 or 3 drives in a row. Think about this. Kansas City scored on 7 straight possessions, right? That's just unheard of. That doesn't happen in the National Football League, and Kansas City did it without blinking an eye, without batting an eye. So if Kansas City can put together 2 or 3 consecutive good possessions and good drives together, I think, like you said, it's going to put Tennessee in too big of a hole. They're going to have to start passing the ball, which is not their MO, and therefore that will basically end their season. So I agree, Kansas City as well. I have Kansas City facing the 49ers in the Super Bowl, which is probably not as sexy as Kansas City and Green Bay, seeing as you would have Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. Yep. But I just feel that the 49ers are...
And you know what, to be honest, if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, we're good. Like that, we're good. Like against Packers or 49ers, that's going to be an awesome matchup. I don't want the 49ers to win because of my bias NFC West. But if they're in it, that's a lot better than Tennessee versus either of these teams. Although I do like the old school stuff. We need to go. We're coming up on the hour. If you missed it earlier, we talked about the Astros scandal. We talked about the national championship game. And then we just predicted that Kansas City, or at least I predicted that Kansas City and Green Bay will get the Super Bowl. And like you just said, Kansas City and the 49ers. For Nick Nenad,
I'm Jared Smith.
This has been another edition of the Coverage 2 podcast. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.